I'm back with another read a whole series in one go, otherwise I'll forget everything that happened. I'm now going to be... The lighting is awful in here. Oh my god. What did that do? I'm now going to be reading duologies. This is going to be the first of 3 duologies I'm going to tackle. I haven't decided whether I'm going to do it all in one or just separate each duology yet. We're starting with The Shepherd King duology, or One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I've heard really good things about One Dark Window, especially since The Night and the Moth has just come out. I think that's also another duology that she's written. People talk about how lyrical and beautiful the writing is. I haven't heard as much about One Dark Window, I've just heard that it's good. So with that trust in mind, I'm going to start reading these 2. This video will be spoiler free. I'll just give you my overall impression of the duology, and then I can tick off another series complete. So like I said, we have One Dark Window, and then the second book is 2 Twisted Crowns. They're not very long, so hopefully it won't take me too long. So let's just get into it. I'll give you an update when I've started reading the first one. I also really need a tripod. Like, what is this? Hey. So I said that it wouldn't take me very long to read it, but like here I am a day later and I'm like 140 pages in. But now that I've read some, I can at least tell you what the book is about. So it follows Elspeth, who lives in this whimsical town called Blunder, where dark things hide in the mist and everyone's surnames are trees. I think it's like in respect of the spirit of the woods, the spirit of the mist. I can't remember the name of it. So this mist is dangerous and it covers most of Blunder. And the only thing to stop the mist is to gather things called provenance cards. And you have to collect a deck of these provenance cards. The only thing is these cards are coveted because they give the user powers. There's one card that has been missing for centuries. So they haven't... Centuries? Years? Don't know. Probably exaggerated there. Been missing for ages. So they've never actually completed the deck. But that's the main mission of the king, is to get the complete deck to banish the mist. There's also a natural magic which comes from people surviving this dark infection, but the survivors of it tend to be deranged, almost like they're not in control of themselves. And so the king has banned anyone who ever gets that fever and infection. They have to be killed. And Elspeth, our main character, is one of them, but she's managed to hide ever since she got the infection when she was a kid. And her power that has come as a result of it is that she's able to absorb the power of a provenance cards, only if she touches one, which she does. So naturally she finds out this power by accidentally touching a provenance card, and the card she touches is the nightmare card. So now she has this nightmare creature living in her head, which she's managed to keep hidden for 12 years until now. So this book kind of takes place where her magic is discovered by someone. It's actually quite convoluted to explain. So I was really starting to think this is going to be really dark, epic fantasy, but after 120 pages I've started to notice things about it that made it feel quite young. Turns out it's YA, which is starting to make a lot of sense. There's a romance that is starting to bud, that's starting to feel quite tropey. Whimsical tree names starting to make more sense. Like at first, because Elspeth was so isolated trying to hide her powers, and her father rejected her because she caught this fever and he knew that she'd be hunted, so he sent her away not to tarnish the family just in case her fever came into public knowledge. They don't know she's got magic powers, they just assume that she went through the infection without getting powers, but that was enough for them to be like, bye. This isolated woman who was harbouring these powers, it started giving me feelings like Circe and The Witch's Heart. I think that's what it's called. You know, it follows this isolated woman who's just trying to make it in the world. Like, just following this isolated woman through no fault of her own. So it's a unique setup. I just hope that the plot doesn't go down the easy route, as some YA books tend to do, just for convenience. Some of them just tend to hit certain plot beats that becomes really predictable. And I just feel like this book has the perfect opportunity to have darker twists and turns. We'll see. I mean, I'm only 120 pages in. I'm making judgment. As soon as I read it as YA, I started making judgment. I also think the romance is throwing me off. If it goes too much into the romance direction rather than the fantasy, I might be a bit more... I'm really not a romance fan, so I didn't know that going in. In terms of the lyrical writing, which I mentioned I thought would be a part of it, it is. In terms of the fairy tales about the provenance cards, and also the nightmare talks to her in rhyming verse. I mean, it makes it quite eerie. I just want that dark, twisted fantasy that I thought it was going to be. Like, look at this cover, it's gorgeous. Doesn't that just give you creepy vibes? I don't know, I shouldn't judge it too soon. So I will continue reading now. I guess that's why I started reading it so slowly, is because it just wasn't what I expected, but maybe that's my fault. Something that I forgot to mention, I kind of forgot that actually happens, to be honest. The reason why people tend to go deranged and a bit mad after the infection is because of the magic. So using magic causes a degeneration. It causes them to get weaker. It says here, last 2 years grown weaker, changeable and violent. The more you use the magic, the more you degenerate. Something I completely forgot is the main plot point in the story, just thought I'd mention it. Although I've just read Providence cards are a gift. Their magic is measured. Neither they nor those who wield them risk degeneration. Nothing comes for free, especially magic. But then they mentioned that using the cards, it has the opposite effect if you use it too much. Like if you use the courage card too much, eventually you'll start feeling fear rather than courage. This is what I mean, it's quite a complicated. Maybe I'm just dumb, who knows. But it's quite a complicated, like, storyline, which is why when the YA tropey romance came in, it just threw me. Anyway, back to it. Oh my god, I finally finished. This took way longer than it should have. The middle of this book was really dragging for me, and I think that's why it took me so long to finish it. When I got to the end, I ended up loving it. I thought the ending was so good. It was twisted and gory. Basically what I was hoping for with a dark gothic fantasy book. The romance definitely spoiled things for me. I'm sorry about all the cars going by. I've opened the windows, it's very hot. The tension to begin with the love interest was great, but as soon as they gave in to those temptations, it went hard. It gave me Edward and Bella vibes. I don't, maybe it's because of like Edward's fucked up family. I feel like the love interests, friends and family were a bit like that. Like if only the middle was more fleshed out. The friendships were so readily made when to begin with there was so much mistrust and fear. Like Elspeth describes them as like horrible people, they have such a bad reputation. And within like a chapter she's like, oh, this person's great. Like where's that development of realising that their reputation isn't what the truth is? But there were so many good elements throughout it. I just wish they'd pushed it a bit more. Like there was talk about these ruins. They were kind of like a key factor in this book, and these ruins, they could have been really creepy and I'm not holding this book, hello. They could have been really creepy and menacing, but I was kind of just like imagining this. I checked Goodreads after finishing it and they described it as similar, well, for fans of For the Wolf by Hannah Witten, I think it's by. And yeah, I definitely agree with that for like the dark fantasy feel. If you like stories that read like a folk tale with the gothic undertones, I think that would be perfect. Yeah, I think I described this as similar to Circe, which I take back. It's that same sort of vibe where the woman is a bit different than everyone else and she's trying to hide her deep dark secret. So I think I'm gonna give this 3 stars. Mainly was bored throughout the majority and I felt like things were a bit rushed. So I'm kind of glad that this is a duology, not a trilogy, because I don't know how it would play out as a trilogy. So yeah, on to the next one. I'm hoping with the way that this ended that the second one is going to be, it's going to play on those vibes. So I've started, where should I put this? Don't look at my washing. Okay, you're just gonna have to imagine it in the frame. So I've started the second book now. I'm currently cutting up a tissue box to use as like junk journaling, because look how cute that is. So I'm about 120 pages in so far and it's been going very well, you'll be pleased to know. I think it's mainly because there's a lot more understanding of why certain characters make certain decisions. Like with the first one, Elspeth got close to people that she despised without really any development of her emotions, of her feeling. It just seemed to all happen off page and you just had to accept that she likes them now. So that's good. I feel more care for the characters because of that, because I understand where they're coming from. The love interest is still grinding my gears. I haven't even been mentioning the love interest by name, and that's because it wasn't mentioned on the blurb of the first book, and the actual romance didn't develop until partway through the first book. I just feel like it's still too insta-lovey. Like, they would die for each other, and they've known each other for what, a couple of months? I guess it's just that, you know, they're just meant to be together or something. I don't know. It's just not my favourite thing to read about. Due to the previous events of the other book, we're now getting other characters' perspective, which I'm really enjoying. There are literal lines, and I can't even cut straight on a pre-made line. So there's a character called Ione. He's been getting a lot more presence in this book. We were introduced to her like right at the beginning of book 1. She's Elspeth's cousin and probably like her closest friend. Like right at the beginning of the first one, One Dark Window, she gets partnered off and just basically becomes a background character. In this one, she's getting more screen time, and you can see that she's gaining her confidence back, and her situation is really unique compared to all the other characters, whereas everyone else cares about just getting all the Providence cards. I've been saying I swear I've been saying Provenance, but I think it's Providence cards. Anyway, so everyone cares about getting all the Providence cards together so that they can complete the deck, get rid of the mist, and be free from the dark magic that plagues their town. But she's just more focused on the fact that she wants more choices in a world that has given her none. So you can see in this one she's gaining her confidence back, trying to gain her independence by just being able to make her own choices. And I really like that. It's really refreshing to read about. That's it for now. Like I said, I'm only 120 pages through, so not much else has happened. So we'll see. I'm just expecting like this really dramatic Edward and Bella moment. What was it? New Moon? Where Edward goes to Italy or something. Bella just sits there throughout the seasons. I feel like that's the love interest now, waiting for Elspeth, because they're separated at the moment. Now I've got a little Mr. Doodle, apparently. And I do want to go outside. I want to go outside and read, but it's Friday and it's warm, so maybe next week. Instead, you're just getting all different angles of my flat, so you're welcome.
Yes, you are. He's a baby.
Right, just ignore the sound of the fan, the sound of outside, my sweaty upper lip. If you see that, no you don't. This is my life saviour at the moment. Not only am I a top floor flat, I have a skylight. That's still letting in all the sun. My control panel says it is currently 33.5 degrees in here. And I honestly think I look quite presentable for that. So I have about 100 pages left. 430 minus 360 is 80 pages left. My thoughts are still the same. I still feel like I want so much more than what it's giving. I definitely prefer this, although there's two kind of storylines going on, and I definitely prefer one over the other. One of them is more of a journey type of storyline, where they have like a task and they have to do lots of different tests basically to get to the end. The other one is following another romance that is blossoming. I didn't realise this was so much of a romantasy. The main problem I have with romantasies is that they love to focus on the romance. I prefer fantasies that have a romance element. I don't mind that. Romantasy is when it's like romance set in a fantasy world, and I want to know more about the fantasy. I want to get to know more of the characters, but they are so focused on the romance that everything else kind of suffers because of it. This is a brilliantly written story. I will give them that. I just want more in-depth characters, like Elspeth's uncle or Ione's father, because Elspeth and Ione are cousins. We'd love to get to know more about him. The king, he just like all we know about the king is that he doesn't like magic and he gets drunk sometimes. Like I want to like figure out what makes him tick. Even some of the destriers who are basically like the knights of the king's knights, like I want to get to know more about them, but some of them you hear about them and all you know is that they're like mean. They're mean people. And like great, they're mean, but why are they mean? Why are they the way they are? But I'll tell you what we know the ins and outs of is this new romance and the two characters involved in that. I feel like every other side character is just a prop for those characters to get together. And that's not what I'm about. So we'll see how the ending goes. And then we've got Elspeth and her love interest to wrap up. I don't even know if it's a spoiler who she gets with, but I'm going to take it that it's a spoiler because it hasn't been mentioned. However, we are getting to know a bit more about the Nightmare. We're getting to know loads about the Nightmare, why he is the way he is, his background, his history, how he got trapped in the Nightmare card and things like that. That's interesting, but it's very broken up at the moment because it's, like I said, dual timeline, dual POV. Anyway, so we only actually get to know more about the Nightmare through Elspeth because the Nightmare is in Elspeth's head. Oh, so it just feels very broken up. Anyway, let's finish this before I pass out. Oh yeah, and there was another plot twist about one of the cards, and all I could think was like, how did no one notice this? Like, if you think about what the card does, it should be pretty obvious that how else it can work. I know that's so vague, it will mean absolutely nothing to you if you haven't read the book. There was supposed to be a big plot reveal in this. In 500 years of having these cards, no one has figured this out. Not judging, but okay, I like the ending. It was a good ending. I don't know why I'm crying. Yeah, I like the ending. It didn't get too romantic either, which was a joy. I loved the Nightmare. Just getting the Nightmare's backstory, I don't know, it really changed it. Yeah, and I liked the ending. I think it was a really nice way of wrapping up the story. It didn't get too sappy and romantic and cheesy, which I'm very grateful for. It instead kind of just focused on sacrifice and learning to live with what happened and trying to forge something new. Yeah. While I was reading it, I would have given it a 3, even though I preferred it to the first one, just because of those elements. Like I said, I always just wanted more throughout. The ending, if an ending gets me emotional, immediately bumps up the rating. So I think I'm going to give this one 3.5 because I did like more elements of this than the first one, and I think it wrapped up very nicely. I'm very happy about that. So that is the end of the Shepherd King duology. I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully what I described will either encourage you to pick this up, or if it's not your thing, then give it a miss. Rachel Gillick did a very good job of making this into a duology. Sometimes the second book can be a bit of a miss, but I already think the second book was an improvement on the first one. So if that sounds up your street, then give this a go. Otherwise, thanks for watching.